Excellent. Very good. Fantastic. I'm going to lip read everyone saying, yes, I'm a good Wednesday. Thank you very much. That is a good sign. We've got a very full webinar today. I didn't also take consideration that everyone's got a note taker these days. So it's going to make it even fuller webinar in the grand scheme of things. But I think we have 50 people or 51 people. I set the limit at 50 and then somehow 51 people signed up for it. So God knows how that works. Good. Right. Hello, Reese. Reese, you are top of the class, mate. You tried to join the webinar about an hour and a half early. So congratulations, buddy. Good to be the king. Right. So I'm very aware of everyone's time. So I want to jump into things as soon as we possibly can do. So yeah, waiting room is off. Cool. I think everyone can just pile in from here. Right, we are recording already. So there is going to be a follow-up recording off the back of today. If you do want any things off the back of it, just let me know. Today is designed to be as interactive as we possibly can do. I do not want this to be death by PowerPoint because that's really boring for you guys and it's really boring for me as well. So there's going to be a lot of typing involved in this one. Might go off mute a few times as well. So we're going to find out who is the quickest typer very, very quickly. So I have got a slideshow today, but I'm not leaning on it too heavily because slides are pretty boring in the grand scheme of things. So what the webinar is all about today is about getting more of your stock under offer. So wave your hands frantically if you are struggling to sell a few properties at the moment. Are you finding it's getting a little bit tougher? Are you finding it's thumbs up being good or thumbs down not so good? Okay. Oh, okay. Watched a very like Julius Caesar there. Okay. So generally speaking, obviously we're coming towards the end part of the year. We've got the budget in not too distant in the future as well. So there's a few sort of balls in the air. As a person that speaks to many estate agents on a daily basis, I would say that if properties are priced correctly and they're presented correctly at the moment, they will sell. If they are, you go on a valuation and they go, I fancy putting £50,000 on my price, then probably those ones aren't going to sell. But if you're priced correctly and you're fairly realistic with regard to the marketing and the presentation of it, you've got a really solid chance of a property going under offer. So certainly properties are being sold. So, it's far from tumbleweed. Right. So let's jump into it, shall we? So I'm going to try a new, it's a really boring thing to say. I'm going to try a new screen sharing technique, which is called over the shoulder, which is where hopefully I should be on the screen at the same time as the slides in there. I've run through the entire thing to make sure that I don't block any of the slides out with me in the way. So I think the slides are up here somewhere. Reese, I can see you. Can we see the slides? Okay, give me a thumbs up. Double thumbs up, double slides. That's what we like to see. Right, so let's power through this and get as much value from me to you guys as I possibly can do in the next 56 minutes. So we know it's about getting more stock under offer. So answers in the chat. Let's find out who is the quickest typer straight away. What is the number one job of your property listing online? So you've got properties that you're putting onto Rightmove, Zoopla, on the market. Other portals are available. What is the number one job of that at any time? Entice buyers. Gets eyes and inquiries. I like the enticing bit there, Reese. That's where I like wooing them in. Good. Any other? Reese is definitely the quickest typer so far. Danny's not far behind. Get valuations. Okay, so the way I would like you to think about your listings on Rightmove is imagine it a bit like a Tinder advert for your property. So if I put a advert for myself on Tinder tomorrow and I put 50 pictures up and I did an absolute what's what about Chris Webb, everyone would run a mile. Because I'd be like, oh, here's a picture of my feet. Oh, great. Fantastic. That's my favorite picture. Oh, here's a picture of like whatever. Like, no one cares. You want to see your adverts on Rightmove and Zoopla as here are the best bits. If you like the look of this, give me a call and see the rest of it. So we do not want to go show off the shed. We don't want to show off the sketchy downstairs toilets, tiling. We want to say these are the main best bits about the property. Everything else is secondary. So we're going to go through kind of what's good and what's not good on this, I think, to start off with. So let's have a little fun game. Hopefully we've got no one from the good estate agent on here today. The irony is somewhat not lost on me. So what I'd like you to do is there is, even just from this one screenshot, which took me a remarkably small amount of time to find, there are multiple errors. So in the chat, type through and tell me what's wrong with this listing straight away. And I'm going to give myself a rough idea how many there are. It's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 mistakes I think we've got here in total. So there's quite a few things to find. And the really amazing thing is, to get them correct, they wouldn't actually have to do any more work. They would just have to know what they're doing. So let's have a quick look. Ah, there we go. Ross, let's start with you. The good estate agent is proud to offer classic estate agency 101, to say the least. So let's start there, shall we? So what did we know about this property before we'd even clicked on it? So I knew it was in Averset Grove, I think that's how you pronounce it, in Cambridgeshire. I knew it was on with the good estate agent. I knew it was detached. I knew it was 4 bedrooms. I knew it had 3 bathrooms. So, what is an absolute waste of their time is saying the good estate agent is proud to offer to the market this delightfully presented 4 bedroom, knew that already, detached, knew that already, tucked away in a large corner plot in the popular village of Soham. I knew that already. So, 90% of that information I knew already. The only thing I didn't know from that is it's on a corner plot. So, absolute waste of time. Absolute waste of time for their description on the front. They might as well not have bothered. Now, what we want to do is structure this towards who we think is going to buy this property. So let's take some very stereotypical examples here and say that a family are going to buy this home. Great. Okay. Well, what are families interested in the local area? Probably interested in school catchments, probably interested in shops, might be interested in parks, for example. So if you did a description that said, are you a growing family looking for your next home? Look no further. With parks nearby, school nearby, and shops nearby, this could be the one for you. I'm thinking, okay, great. I know it's detached. I know it's 4 bedrooms. I know it's got 3 bathrooms. I now know it's got schools nearby. I know it's got parks nearby. And that's exactly what that sort of buyer is looking for. If it was a first-time buyer, are you a first-time buyer looking for your first step on the property ladder? This is perfect because it's got this, 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 and this. So design who you think the property is going to be ideal for. If ever you're on the fence, go for the numbers game and think, actually, this is probably going to be a family. So for this one, probably 9 times out of 10, it's going to be a family. 1 time out of 10, it might be someone downsizing or whatever it may be. So go for the numbers game on that side. So number one, description-wise, is absolutely terrible. Right, let's see what else we've got. Who was next on the list? Danny, no internal shot. So you may not realize this, but actually those two photographs are at the front of the property. So this is the left-hand side and that is the right-hand side. So we want to show off, again, Tinder ad, the best bits as quick as we possibly can do. I'm sure there's some really nice rooms inside this property, living rooms, kitchens, whatever it may be. We want to get those across as soon as we possibly can do. So to go even deeper in this, historically, Rightmove used to ask for a front shot, living accommodation, bedroom accommodation, and then garden. Now they're doing exactly the same as that, but instead of being in that order, you want the best garden picture to be in the first 4 pictures. So effectively now you're going to have front shot, living accommodation, the best garden shot, the rest of the living accommodation, the bedrooms, and then the rest of the garden pictures. So whatever garden space you've got on the property, you should be dragging that right the way up to being in your first 4 pictures. That's especially important if you've got a premium listing, which you probably should do on your instructions as well. That's ever since COVID, everyone wants some sort of outside space. So therefore, that's really important. You show that off as soon as you possibly can do. Even if it's got a balcony, communal gardens, all that sort of thing, same rule completely applies for that. Right, so Danny, you got a really good one there. Shadow, yeah, that's fine. Number of bedrooms, yeah, we're talking about that. Okay, anything else we can see wrong with this? I'll give you a clue. If you look in the top left-hand corner, price, there we go. Ashley, well done. Ashley, I promised Joe that I would say hello, so thank you for coming on today, Ashley. Joe says hello as well. So 535, it needs to be a price point. So by being at 500, or offers in excess of 500 for this one, it would increase the amount of views on it by 40%. So 40% more views on the property by hitting a price point. And there's also, to make this one doubly worse for this property, there is a bit of a no man's land between 500 and 550. No one really searches that sort of area on Rightmove. And there's also a no man's land between 250 and 275. So wherever possible, do not price properties between 250 and 275 and 500 and 550 because you're going to a really quiet part of the market. But with that aside, if this was on a price point, it would get 40% more views off the back of it. So really, really worth having. Okay, what else is wrong with it? So we've got the price is wrong. We've got the description is wrong as well. We've got the photographs are wrong. 24 photographs, actually, well done. And so 24 pictures. If I put 24 pictures on my Tinder ad, you'd be damn well sure that picture number 22, 23, and 24 are going to be pretty terrible. It's probably me yawning on a night out or something. So therefore, we should have a maximum of 12 pictures for the average property. So 9 to 12 photographs are what Rightmove are looking for. You can maybe, like this is a moderately sized house, it's not a tiny property, you still stick it within 12. If you had a massive property like, land and acreage and whatever else, maybe 15, an absolute push. But really 9 to 12 for 90% of your instructions you bring on the market is absolutely fine. We're showing off too much by showing 24 pictures. We're giving people a reason not to view it. Again, just best bits we're trying to show off here. Cool. What is one more thing that is not showing on that property that would increase? I'll give you a clue. So by having one of these, it would increase the amount of views on the property by just short of 10%, and it would increase the amount of leads by about 6% by having one of these on here. Danny, well done. Video, quick type in there, Danny. So video tours on properties, you should have across the board. So it increases the chance of you selling the property. It gets more views on the property. It gets more traction on the property. And what's even better, if you're doing a video tour correctly, you should feature in it. Rightmove gets about 500,000 visitors every single day. So why wouldn't you want to get yourself in front of those people? So you should absolutely have video tours on every single property you bring on the market, introduction by yourself, then show off just the best bits of the home, and then some sort of call to action at the end. So for example, are you looking for a family home in Soham? I've got an amazing property with you. Let's have a look inside. Then show me the best couple of rooms that you think is relevant to a family. So living rooms, kitchens, gardens, for example, and then a call to action at the end telling me what to do. If you like the look of this property and you want to view this property before it comes on the market, give me a call. My number is this. So make it super, super easy. Unfortunately, you need to assume that everybody is a bit stupid. So if you assume that everyone's stupid, you'll be pleasantly surprised when they find out where to go correctly. Okay, so let's see how many of these we got. Because I think we've got the pictures, got the lack of video tour, we've got the price, we've got the description as well. And the pictures there. There you go, good. There you go, grand slam, very well done. Right, so phones are the ready. First giveaway for the day. If you do want a bit of a cheat sheet about how to list your properties correctly on Rightmove to make sure they are firing on all cylinders, you can download our Ultimate Listing Guide report. All you need to do is scan that QR code and it just downloads. You don't even need to put your email address in. It's literally a freebie giveaway. Just scan that QR code. There's two things on there. One is the Ultimate Listing Guide, which you can see on the screen, and the other one is the top 20 keywords on Rightmove. So a bit more in depth, and basically the keywords that people are searching for when they go onto Rightmove. So therefore, if your property has one of these features, you need to make sure you include it somewhere in the property listing. So the most common ones are garden, garage, parking, acres, annex, all these sort of things people are searching for a lot. So if you've got that in your property, you can make sure you mention that word within there. So that's a really key thing to do. Cool. Right. So another little Brucey bonus. You probably know this, but probably don't do it because we're all guilty of this. Should be rotating your pictures every 14 days. That doesn't mean put the downstairs loo picture as the first picture, but instead, just move around the first couple of pictures. You'll get a nice little kick up on interest in that property just by doing that. So a nice easy win for yourself. Right. So that's the presentation bit, which I appreciate is probably 1 out of 10 of the problem with your property not selling. I'm sure you'll do a very good job presenting your homes on the market. You can be the most amazing estate agent with the most amazing presentations of homes, and they look amazing. You've got drone this and whatever else that. But if your property is heavily overpriced, you'll get tumbleweed. On the other side of the coin, if you've got a property which is undervalued for the local area, you could have a picture taken on an iPhone 3GS with your finger in front of the lens. It will still probably sell quite quickly. So price is the biggest factor between properties selling and not selling 99% of the time. So therefore, if you price a property correctly, it will get interest. So we're going to talk through the next stage is about how you price a property correctly. And if it isn't selling, what you should do off the back of it to get it sold as soon as you possibly can do. First of all, though, we're going to take a step backwards to take a step forwards. If you want to get a good price reduction and have good price management with your stock, your vendor care needs to be absolutely on point. The more communication you have with your vendor, the more they will realize that you are doing every single thing you can to sell their property. So therefore, the price reduction is an easier conversation to have. So I'll answer my own question here. What's the number one job of your vendor care? That is to get across exactly how hard you are working to try and sell that property. So every conversation or you have a vendor should be, I am doing this. I am doing that. I'm chasing these guys up. I'm chasing those guys up. I'm posting something next week. I'm going to change these pictures around. I'm doing. If you phone your vendors after 3 weeks and say, "Right, we need to change the price," and they're like, "Yeah, what was your name again?" You're like, "Oh, it's Reese from Nested." You're like, "Sorry, who? You're a estate agent." Yeah, that's not a good sign. That is not gonna be a good price reduction for you, anytime soon. So therefore, if you have that regular communication, they'll understand how hard you are working for them. So therefore, when it comes to a price reduction conversation, they'll know you've done every single thing you can do to try and sell that property. So a couple of golden rules here for vendor care. First of all, at least once a week. I don't care if they've had 10 viewings in the week, you should still give them a 30-second phone call to say, "Hey, hope you're okay. This is your update for this week. Obviously, we've had 10 viewings this week. I've had feedback from 7 of them. I'm still chasing those other 3. We'll see how we get on with the second viewings on Saturday." Really super easy, but that should be in your diary every single week. Ideally, in a perfect world, I would love for them to be in person. But in reality, over the phone is a solid second place. I wouldn't rely too much on email. I wouldn't rely too much on WhatsApp. Things can get lost in translation very, very easily. So to prove the point, answers in the chat. What percentage do you think of all communication is the words you use? So if I was stood in a room with Danny today, having a conversation with Danny, chatting about whatever it may be, what percentage of our communication is in the words that I choose to use in that conversation? There we go. Let's see what we've got coming in the chat. 100%, 15%. We've got a range. 15%, 25. Okay, we've all pitched it high. 25. The answer is 5. So next time you have an argument with your partner over text message, that's why. Because you can write something to them and they can go back saying, "Yeah, that's fine. Don't worry about it. That's no problem at all." Actually, if you had a phone call with them, they're like, "Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, you have a good time. Go out. You have a good time. Don't worry about me." You're like, "Okay, that doesn't sound like I'm going to be fine." So if you're only using 5% of all our communication method, it's no wonder that the 95% gets made up very quickly. So therefore, we give ourselves the best possible chance of getting all our communication style across we possibly can do. Obviously, in person, you've got your body language, you've got your tone of voice and the words you use. Over the phone, you've got your tone of voice and you've got the words you use, which is a large part of the pie to start off with. So ideally, in person, if possible, but majority of the time is going to be over the phone. I appreciate when you have vendor care that goes on for a long period of time, it can get slightly painful, but trust me, the day you stop doing your vendor care is the day they leave you. So you need to stay on top of it and buckle down for those ones. Now, this is a bit of the opposite direction you might expect. As the interest decreases on a property, so they get less viewings, less interest online, you need to contact them more. If you had 10 viewings on my property this week, I know you're working hard because you've been around my house 10 times. I've cleaned the carpet 10 times. I've had to go out and walk the dog 10 times. I know how hard you're working. If I've not had a viewing for 3 weeks, I might think you're on the golf course. So as interest decreases on a property, you actually need to speak to your homeowners and sellers more to avoid being disinstructed. The times when you start leveling that off and go, actually, oh, they're fine. They know it's quiet. That is when they'll start to leave you. So always vendor care is the place to be. And should be a non-bookable slot. That's not very good, not a great English on that side. It should be a reserved slot in your diary every single week. So this should be in a Tuesday, Wednesday, whatever day of the week works best for you. And that should be literally cemented in stone in your diary that you cannot book over the top of that. That is exactly what you're focusing on. So that is every single week from this time to this time, I'm going to phone all my vendors and have a conversation with them. That's where you need to be in your business. So if you do that, your job is going to be a lot easier when it comes to price reductions down the line. Cool. So how can we make the price reduction conversation easier? Well, first of all, before we go into this, I don't want you guys to fall into what I would refer to as valuer's guilt, which is where you feel like I valued the property. I told them it was worth a certain amount of money, for example, and therefore I feel guilty it hasn't sold. As long as you can hand on heart, stand there and go, I've done every single thing I can do to try and sell this property. What more can you do? You know, you've probably got a property which is 2 rows down the road, which you've done exactly the same marketing on. They sold within 2 weeks and they're sending you testimonials online. So as long as you can hand on heart say, I've done every single thing I can do to sell this property, do not feel any guilt whatsoever. Also, you need to look at it from a cold, hard statistics point of view. Do not gaslight yourself. Do not go, oh, well, I think it's an all right property. And yeah, I think it's about right. And I think the 300 is about right for it. And I think it's a good buy. And if I was looking for a house that sort of money, I would buy it, spend that sort of cash. You got to look at it and go, it's had no viewings for 3 weeks. The leads are online, but no one's picking up the phone. So look at it on a very black and white basis. So things that are going to help you. Price sensitive feedback. Nevermore should your feedback be, oh, they thought the kitchen was a bit small. Because they could extend the kitchen, it's going to cost them a lot of money. Never again are you going to say, oh, it's a bit close to the road. Because what are they going to do? Move the house back 20 feet? Never again should you be saying, oh, the garden's too small for them. Because what are they going to do? Invade next door? But the one thing they can change very quickly is the price. So your feedback should always be related to the price. So for example, with those ones there, if they said it was a bit noisy, a bit close to the road, the feedback would been, I've had a chat with a couple, they decided actually the property was, for the budget they're looking for, a little bit too noisy. And they've seen other properties that are the same sort of budget, but they are a lot quieter. So we just linked it in with the price. Well, they've seen other properties that are the same sort of price range, but actually they had a bigger garden. Okay? We're basically saying your garden's too small for the money. So everything is linked into the price. This is going to help you massively. And at the end of every viewing, if you say to people that you like the property, don't like the property, doesn't really make a difference, out of interest, what do you think of the price of this home? And you get 10 people come back to you and say, oh, we all think it's worth 400,000. Well, Kelsa Breeze, when it comes to your vendor care, with your communication with your seller, you're not saying, oh, the kitchen's too small, the bathroom's too small, the garden's too smelly for them. Instead, you're coming forward and saying, we've had 10 viewings now, and all 10 of them said the price was 400,000. So therefore, quite clearly, that's where the price needs to be for the property. So you can give yourself a massive leg up on that side. And no longer is it sort of you versus the vendor when it comes to pricing. It's you and your 10 mates who all agree the price is too high at the moment. Cool. Adding a 21-day reminder. So we're going to jump into this very shortly with regards to some key stats around this. But as a bit of a hack here, every time you take a property on the market, add a reminder in your diary for 21 days time down the line. So if you list a property on the 1st of November, for example, just put a note in your diary for the 21st of November. Because that is sort of when the honeymoon is over, should we say, which we'll jump into more details on that very shortly. But it's really key to have that there because otherwise, what generally happens is you're like, oh, it's been on the market now for only a couple of weeks and it's been 2 months. Time flies in a estate agency, and if you don't put a reminder in your diary, it will just slide until you eventually go, oh my God, it's been on the market for 6 weeks. I've not actually done a price reduction on it. So always put a reminder in your diary. Okay, signposting on the market appraisal. This is about having plan A and plan B when it comes to selling a property. And so I'd be very open with the seller and say, look, plan A for your property is we sell it at £400,000. I'm going to throw the kitchen sink at getting that money for you. But if that doesn't work out, I think it's important we have a plan B to fall back on should we need to. And that would involve us having a conversation about 3 weeks' time about what's been working well, what hasn't been working well, the next steps from there. And then potentially the price needs to be looked at that point. So basically, we're saying from day one on the valuation, from the take on, this is plan A, what we're doing, asking prices and getting it sold straight away, etc. But should that not happen, we've got a plan B behind the scenes. So therefore, this is plan A, this is plan B. Let's go on from there. And regular vendor communication we talked about already. So that's a nice, easy one. Right, some stats. Feel free, if you want to take some screenshots of this or write it down if you're very quick at writing. These are from Rightmove. So pretty much when it comes to industry stats, they hold the keys to gazillion data points, so they know what they're talking about. So these are price reduction stats that they have produced. So let's go through these. So non-reduced properties are 1.35 times more likely to sell. So this leads into the fact that if you're going to price a property correctly, do it from day one. Having a price reduction is a plan B. If you list it correctly at the correct price to start off with, and it sells, you've got a better chance of getting it done. So this is where pricing a property from the day one is really, really key. Also, if you don't have to reduce the price of the property, you price it correctly from the start, they take a third of the time to sell compared to reduced properties. So 1/3 of the time to sell. So a significant amount less. They're also, bonus for you guys, half as likely to fall through later in the process. So that is a nice Brucey bonus that they're far less likely to fall through. And even better, they're half as likely to go to a competitor. So this is a really good advert about why you should price properties correctly from day one. If you're having a conversation with a homeowner and they're going, oh, can we try an extra 10 grand or can we try an extra 25 grand? Have a think about these and say, actually, if we go for too high and we have to reduce the price down, actually, you're twice as likely to actually fall through later in this process. So, and that would be me phoning you saying, actually, we've lost your buyer. We've got to start all over again because we're trying this extra bit of money. So use these stats, take a screenshot, take a picture. There's plenty more to come. So let's look about when agents drop the price down. So we talked about earlier about 3 weeks being a good line to go for. Let's find out why. So 14% of all agents out there reduce the prices in the first 2 weeks, which is pretty good. 23% reduce it between weeks 2 and week 4. Over 30% reduce between week 4 and week 8. And a shocking stat, around 33%, so a third of all agents wait until week 8. I think after 2 months, we've got the gist the property probably isn't selling. So please do not be in the bottom half of that, be in the top two. So ideally, about week 3 is what we're looking for. And let's look at why that is. So properties reduced within weeks 2 to 4 have a 60% chance of selling. Those reduced after 8 weeks drops down to 50%. So reduce it after 8 weeks, we lose 10% chance of selling compared to properties that have been reduced a bit quicker. Properties reduced after 8 weeks have an average selling time of 160 days. So one more time, properties reduced after 8 weeks have an average selling time of 160 days. Properties reduced within 2 to 4 weeks sell within 79 days, which is conveniently pretty much exactly half. So if you want to get paid significantly quicker, you'll be dropping a price down between week 2 and week 4. So let's go for week 3, as if by magic. So that should scare the pants out of you vendors when it comes to overpricing. So let's look at now about how long it takes to sell, even deeper. So almost 30% of properties undergo more than one reduction, which adds 50 days to the market. So in reverse order, non-reduced properties take 33 days to sell. Not bad, a month. Properties with one reduction take 94 days to sell. Not great, 3 times the amount straight away. Properties with more than one reduction take 144 days to sell. So that is a long period of time. So what this tells us is if you're going to drop it, if you want to get the price right, get it right from day one, obviously. But if you're going to drop the price down at all, do one reduction and do it correctly. What we don't want to see is what you occasionally see on Rightmove is like it's had about 15 price reductions by $5,000 over the last 2 years. You're better off saying, right, we're on at 400 a day. It needs to be 375. That's the jump we need to make. Let's not go for 395, then 390, and then 385. Let's just get it done and get the property sold. So that is where you need to be. You should not be doing multiple reductions on properties. And if I was selling my property and the agent came to me and asked for multiple reductions, I'd be like, why did you not tell me that 3 weeks ago? So you're wasting everyone's time by not getting the price down to where it should be the first go around. Cool. So let's look at how much agents are reducing the prices by. So 0 to 2% reduction, about 50% of all the properties sell. So if you get a 2% reduction, which I know everyone loves because it does a new Rightmove trigger, you've got a 50% chance of selling. If you do a reduction between 2 and 3%, obviously a bigger reduction, sales rate goes to 55%. Good news, we've gained an extra sort of 10% on the 50%. And 5 to 7% reduction sees a 58% chance of sale. So this again shows us quite obviously, the more we reduce the property price down, the better the chances are of selling. So really nice, clear stats that you can use in your business to have conversations with homeowners, say this is what you're going through. And if you're thinking about putting your price on for a higher figure, this is probably the reason why we shouldn't. Everyone with me so far? Has everyone jotted those all down? Give me a little yes or a Y in the chat to see. Let me know it's all good. Right. So let's talk through the vendor care cycle, which every one of your properties you are listing and selling at the moment should be somewhere on this roundabout. It's a never-ending roundabout circle of properties being on the market, changing in price, and then going under offer. But every property is somewhere in these 1, 2, 3 steps of your business. So the reason it's 3 steps is because it's week 1, week 2, and then week 3. So let's look about the conversations you should be having with your sellers in that time. So week 1, nice easy week on week 1. So confirm the listing is live. So it's on live, it's on Rightmove, it's on Zoopla, it's on our social media page. I'm putting it up as a story later on today. You know, I've done. So the second one, yeah, talk about what you're doing to try and sell their property. I've sent out your details, I've matched it out, I've checked all the portals, we're looking really good. Thumbs up. Also, I've looked at the Rightmove stats. It's doing really well already. We've appeared in 2,000 searches in the last couple of days. It's looking really, really solid. My plan from here is to chase up these people I've sent details out to and actually speak to my database later on today and try and get some viewings for your property. Nice and easy. Biggest focus there is exactly that, though, what we are doing to try and sell the property. Let's go on to week two. Again, talk about what you are doing to try and sell that property. Yeah, just sending out some more social media content today. I'm rematching it with our database. I've got 3 people to chase up that I spoke to last week about it. I'm doing. So we're getting everything out the closet to say, this is what I'm doing to try and sell your home. Again, you look at the right move stats, you show, try and focus here on the big figures. So don't say, oh, you've got 20 people who have downloaded your details last week. That doesn't sound that impressive. Where if you go, you've got 2,000 searches you appeared in last week, that sounds a lot more impressive. So try and focus on the big figures because it shows your marketing is working. And the next stage is to explain you would have expected more. So we've appeared in 2,000 searches. I've sent out lots of details. I've done the social media campaigns, and we've not had a single viewing yet. To be full disclosure, I would have expected more off that amount of marketing that we've been sending out and how hard I've been working to try and sell your property. I've got other properties who are doing the same sort of thing, and they're getting 4, 5, 6 viewings in a week, and we've not had the first one yet. So nothing too much to worry about at the moment, but just be aware that's very much on my radar. Cool. And then week three, which is the third part of our carousel. Recap what you've been doing to try and sell their property. So again, we've been doing this. We've been sending out these details with these people and matching and emailing and putting on our social media, etc. We've been doing. So they know there's no excuse when you talk about price very shortly. That they go, well, what have you been doing? I've not heard from you in the last couple of weeks. What have you been trying to do to sell my property? You're just trying to get the price down to get a quick, easy sale. We want to avoid that conversation as much as we can do by getting across everything we've been doing. Again, we can reconfirm the right move stats. And then price reduction conversation. And therefore, we then have a conversation with them about the pricing of the property. Right, I'm going to come off screen share for this bit because I'd like to be able to see you when I do this. The good news is, once you know how to have a price reduction conversation, you can do it with your eyes closed. And in a weird sort of way, price reductions are my favorite part of having an estate agency conversation. I know it's a bit weird and a bit sick because there's a certain structure you can follow. If you follow it, you can do it with your eyes closed while riding a unicycle. It's really super easy. And the structure is exactly this. So these are almost verbatim what you should be saying in this conversation. So first of all, we've got across over the last couple of weeks exactly what we've been trying to do to get the property sold. So Mrs. Jones, I've got some good news and I've got some bad news. The good news is our marketing is working really well. We've appeared in 2,000 searches last week. We've had 50 people download the details, good response on our social media campaigns. Everything on that side is going really, really well. So that's the good news. Basically, we're doing a good job. The bad news is I would have expected a lot more off the back of that. I would have expected 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 viewings off the back of it. So clearly, there's something getting in the way of those 2,000 people looking at the property details online and picking up the phone to view your property. Now, it's one of two things, Mrs. Jones. It's either the way we present the property or it's the pricing of the property. Now, I've talked to lots of people who've even sent details across about the presentation of the property, and they've all said it looks really, really good online. So I'm really happy with the presentation. I think the photographs look great. Floor plan looks great. I think we've done a really good job there. So really, it's looking more like the price. So question for you, Mrs. Jones. If someone walked to your front door today who is your perfect buyer with a bag full of money, what would you take for your place? Would you take £350,000? Now, the important bit there is I've mentioned a figure which is below what I think they're going to take. If they're on at £400,000, I don't think they're going to take 350. I just don't think it's going to happen. They might take 375, for example. But the reason why we've said it that way is we want them to correct you. If you say to somebody, tell me, Ross, what would you take for your property, mate? You'd be like, well, Chris, get me some viewings, mate. Get me some offers. We're flexible. You know, we'll do a deal with somebody. You're like, no, I want a price that you will accept for your property and we won't accept for it. So by saying to them, would you take a lower figure? They will correct you and they'll go, Ross, I wouldn't take 350. All right, what would you take? All right, we might take 375. Cool, 375. At least we know where we stand in that situation. We then have a really good idea about what a vendor will accept and what they won't accept. And effectively, what you should have on your whiteboard, your process sheet, however you manage these things, should basically be a list of what people are on for currently and what you've got a really good idea of what they'll accept and what they'll do. So if we know they're on at 400,000 and they'll take 375. Okay, right. Well, let's have a chat about the pricing of that property. Let's maybe try offers in excess of 375, for example. If they turned around and said, wouldn't take a penny below 400,000, what are we going to do? They've just turned around and said, we're on at 400,000. We won't take a penny less than 400,000. So here we are. Your choices at that stage are either I'm a new agent and I'm sort of desperate for listings and a listing's better than no listings. Let's keep it with it. Or you might look at it and go, actually, I'm so busy and I've got so many properties on the market. Actually, I don't need that in my life. So maybe not the agent for you. It's your choice to make for where you are in the business today. But at least you've got a good idea about where the property is and where the pricing is today. Cool. So structure of that, good news, bad news. Good news is doing really well online, right move, stats, right move, social media, etc. Bad news is would have expected a lot more back from that. Something is getting in the way of the people reviewing it online and then picking up the phone for your property. It's either the presentation or the price. Presentation is really good. It must be the price. Question for you. If someone walked to your front door with a bag full of money, what would you take for your home? Would you take figure slightly lower than you think they're going to take? If I said to you today, oh, if you look out the window, oh, the sky's yellow today, there's a little part of your mind that goes, correct, Chris. Correct him that he's wrong. Tell him that he's wrong. The sky's blue, or it's actually grey. People want to be right and people want to correct people. So if I say something that is wrong, so I go, oh, that logo is yellow, there's a part of you goes, no, it's not, Chris, it's blue. People want to correct you. So the fact that I say, will you take 350? The little voice inside your head will go, tell him we'll take 375. He's wrong. So you're purposely getting it wrong so they can correct you. If you just say to them, what will you take for it? They'll be like, yeah, get some offers. Get some offers, get some viewings, and we'll see what we can do. But then obviously that's a never-ending cycle because we can't get viewings because the price is too high. Cool. Right. Let me just jump back into over the shoulder, screen share, desktop slides. There we go. Cool. We're on the chat. I think, can we go back to the 1 to 3 week worksheet? Yeah, of course we can. There we go. Oh, I've gone too far, Joe. There we go. Joe, take a picture. Now's your time. You have a 3-second warning while I take a drink. There we go. Time is up. So we now know that everyone should be somewhere on this roundabout any time. If they're a new instruction, great. They're on week 1. If they are sort of that middle ground, we're getting viewings or we're not getting viewings, we would have expected more. That's week 2. And week 3 is the price structure conversation. Now, as you might expect, this being sort of a roundabout, if you drop the price down on week 3, we go back to week 1. Just let you know, Mrs. Jones, we've just changed the price on the property. I've updated it on Rightmove. I've done a new social media post. We're basically having the same conversation that we had 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, all over again. We just confirm we've changed the price. We've updated it online. We've changed the window card in the office. We've rematched out to our database. We're doing. Week 2. We're doing. But I would have expected more off the back of it. I would have expected a couple more viewings off the back of it. And then a week later, Merry Christmas, having the price structure conversation again. But you should only ever go around this once, really. If you're doing your job correctly and getting the price down to where it needs to be to sell, you should only be doing 1 lap of this. So you don't want to be doing multiple laps. It means you're not reducing the property enough when you are doing it. Cool. Right, let's talk about red, amber, green. So red, amber, green is a way of ranking your properties within your business. So this is basically how sellable are the homes we've got on the market today in our business. Are we going to be selling all of them or none of them? And let me just talk you through what each of these are. So red, as you might imagine, these are properties that are not very likely to sell. So these are the properties where you've got it on for 400,000. You have said to the homeowner, it's too much money. We need to change it. What would you take for it, etc. And they've gone, yeah, I'll take 400,000 for it. And you think, right, okay, well, chances are that's not going to sell anytime soon. So generally, that is a lack of motivation on the vendor's side, or they have very tight finances. But either way, something is getting in the way of them adjusting their property to actually what it needs to be to sell. A red property probably isn't going to sell anytime soon. On the other side of the coin, you've got green properties. So if I listed a property today and I had 5 viewings booked in for Saturday, I'd be thinking, it's kind of in the bag. As long as I turn up for those viewings, do a fairly good job, it's probably going to sell. Now, if you look at an average estate agency, probably about 1 in every 10 instructions are green. So it is the minority, unfortunately, for them to be that case. So for it to be green, it needs to be pretty new to the market and be looking to sell very soon. So literally, you just turn up the appointments and you've got a sale. Finally, amber is between the two. So amber are properties where they'll sell if something changes. And usually that's one of two things. Usually it's you improving the marketing, which shouldn't really be the case because you should have thrown the kitchen sink at it from day one, or the price is changing on the property. And that's usually the biggest thing. So effectively, you're looking and go, right, amber property is on at 400,000 today. If I got it down to 375, it'd probably be a green property. Red properties, it's on at 400 today. If I can even get a price reduction, if I got it down by X amount, it'd probably become an amber property. So what you're trying to do is just move everything down the line. So you're trying to convert the red properties into amber, which is very hard to do. But what's quite easy to do is to move the amber properties into green. Usually that's a change of marketing or a change of price. And actually, suddenly a property that's been stale for the last X amount of time suddenly gets a lot more interest and looks like it's going to go under offer. So it's a really nice, easy process to go through. And you should rank all your properties this way. So any property you've got for sale at the moment, a really nice, easy job for you after this video call is to go through and go, right, which one's a red, which one's a amber, and which one's a green. And I would imagine it might be a little bit of a reality check to look at your listings and go, oh my God, I've only got one green property. Oh my God, I've got no green properties. It's probably more likely. Okay, in that case, the best time you can spend in your business is go, right, let's look at these amber properties. They're on at what price today, what price they need to be at, and can we make that conversation happen? Probably an hour or two spent doing vendor care and getting some prices changed will result in a couple of properties going under offer. I don't know what your average fee is at the moment, but if you can get paid £10,000 for making an hour's worth of phone calls, that's not too bad. So that is a place where it needs to be. Right. So I did say today wasn't going to be death by PowerPoint. So hopefully that is the end of the PowerPoint section. I've got one more slide, which I'm going to sandbag until the end, if that's okay. Um, any questions on anything we've covered so far? You can jump off mute if that's any easier at all. If anyone wants to just shout as opposed to typing away.
Um, can I ask a question?
You can.
So you said that Mrs. Jones said, I'm not reducing my price, I'm selling my property for 400, no less. And you said it's up to the estate agent, depending on your situation, whether you're a new one, that's your first listing and all that. Does that not actually jeopardize your reputation? Because that property might sit on the market for the next 4 weeks. And other people on the street are thinking, oh, it's not selling, that estate agent can't sell.
Yep. Yep. That's why you need to take a view on it, because absolutely right. Because if you've got a property that sits on the market for ages, let's say you sell 9 out of 10 properties within 2 weeks. Let's say you're doing a really good job for those 9 out of 10, but you've got one property that sits on the market, that number 10 out of 10 that's been on the market for the last 5 years or so, your average selling time stats are going to be through the floor. And that is not a good place for you to be. So that is when you look at it from a commercial point of view and go, is it worth my while? Is it worth me having that? 9 out of 10, I'm selling straight away. Clearly, it's not a me problem; it's a them problem. And actually, is it worth me having that? Yes or no? If you're brand new and you've just started, and you're like, well, one listing's better than no listings, then potentially it might be worth keeping. If you're at the stage where you're like, actually, I'm doing really well, I'm listing and selling properties, and actually, I don't need this kind of stress in my life, then have a nice conversation with them and say, look, I think it needs to change from this price to this price. And, we've got a couple of options here. Either we can kind of change the price down to 375, or I think maybe I'm not the agent for you. No, no hard feelings. It's kind of, it is what it is.
Mm.
So I think that's the way to go with it. But good question though. Good.
This, I've got a quick question. That's all right.
Yeah, brilliant. Of course, mate.
Um, I'm in the London market, and a lot of my sellers are worried about this budget. And I would say I've got a couple of listings on that in the last 6 months would have sold at the prices that they're listed at now.
Yep.
So the conversations I've been having is I don't quite know whether it's the budget that's holding the buyers back from coming to view or whether it's the price. So I've kind of been setting up a lot of my sellers to say, look, let's see how things progress after the budget and then have a big market review of what's going on. I'm very mindful that it's still 4.5 weeks away. And some of these properties haven't had viewings now for 2, 3, maybe 4 weeks.
Yep.
So just kind of keen to get your thoughts on that and whether push them for a price reduction now when actually I could do a reduction and still nothing happens.
Yep.
And I've lost that opportunity to do that once this budget's out of the way.
But I think with any kind of budget or Brexit or elections, anything like that at all, there's always a sort of I wouldn't say calm before the storm. There's always calm before nothing, generally speaking. You know, I remember when Brexit happened, it was like, oh my God, the wheels are going to fall off. And then suddenly, actually, we got the Boris bounce and things were really good. So you never quite know. But 3 or 4 weeks before a election, budget, whatever, it's usually quite quiet. Now, for me, I would look at your vendors who are on the market today and go, not necessarily who's desperate, but who has to sell. You know, which properties are divorcing, dead, whatever. The ones that they're like, look, we have to sell, Reece. That we need to get moving because I'm moving to so and so. I've got a job in so and so starting in 6 weeks' time. And I would look at those ones. I'd focus on those ones. The ones that are, you know, if it sells, Reece, it sells. We're quite laid back about it. Okay, maybe have a right. Let's wait to see what the budget happens and kind of go from there. But I'd imagine what is probably I don't know if this is being recorded, so I've got a neck on the line too much. What I generally imagine is that after the budget announcements, it'll go back to normal again within about a week. So nothing too much is going to happen, nothing game changing. They'll put beer up by a penny and whatever else it might be, and that'll be that sort of thing. And everyone go, okay, we can just get on with it now. So I don't think anything massive is going to change. I would like to be surprised, but I think that you'd zone in on the people that need to sell and have a conversation with them and say, look, this you've told me you need to get things moving quickly, and you told me you want to move. This is the route you go down. So I think that you probably separate your vendors into two half: ones that want to sell and ones that have to sell. The ones that want to sell, if it works for you, I'd probably be quite open about them and say quite laid back and let's wait for the budget. The ones that have to sell, I'd be like, I don't want to waste 5 weeks of marketing.
Mm. Sure.
That's where I'd go with it. Cool. Any other questions? We did get a long list of questions actually on the. Thank you everyone who submitted a question on the form thing when you went in there. One of the good ones, well, they're all good. But one of the ones I'm going to pick on, if that's okay, is one of the first people to do it. How do you get sellers to accept your valuation of their property? Which I thought was quite a good relevant question, bearing in mind the topic for today. So, what I would change from most agents' valuations, it'll be very stereotypical here, is you turn up with your research and you talk at the vendor. And you go, I've seen your property, I've got my research, and I think it's worth 400,000. Well, that's fine, but you're not like property Jesus. So therefore, you need to have instead of doing that, what you're far better off doing is turning up and having more of a consultative approach with the vendor. So instead of just standing there and preaching, going, this is what I think and I sort of thing, instead you're far better off saying to the homeowner, look, there's two ways of us getting the price for your property. Number one is I just stand here and I kind of just tell you what I think it's worth. But what's far better than that is you've lived in this property for the last 20 years. You know it better than I do and anyone else does. So what I've actually got is my comparables with me. We can work through them together and actually work out the prices together. Now, small little caveat here, your price doesn't change. Whether it's option one or option two, makes no difference. Like it's just the scenic route to get there effectively. So instead of us just preaching, we're getting the homeowner to assist us in finding the price out for the property, even though we know it already. So in that situation, you go, right, I've got 6 properties in front of me, which I think are along the same sort of lines for yourself. You would have what I would call capping properties. So one that is cheaper, that you think actually it's not a 2-bedroom flat, so it's never gonna be that cheap. And the next stage up on top of that, you'd be like, right, here's houses at 450, that's a 4-bed detached house. So they're never gonna be that much money. So you've got sort of rails on it straight away. But here's the ones between that I think are on the right sort of lines for yourself. Right, what do you think of that first one? How do you think that compares to your property? Oh, well, they've got a bigger driveway and I've got a bigger kitchen. I've got this. Oh, yeah, great. So, okay. Sounds like we're looking at the property being about between this figure and this figure. Is that fair to say? So they're agreeing and they're being part of the process of valuing their property. That helps in 2 ways. First of all, they buy into the valuation of their property that you've given them. Second thing is when another agent comes through in 10 minutes time and says, no, 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 it's worth £500,000. Suddenly, they're not just disagreeing with you, they're disagreeing with your team that you've set up half an hour ago that you've decided the property is worth that much. So they're not disagreeing with you, they're disagreeing with you and the vendor as well. And people don't like that. So therefore, there's very much a weight on that overvaluer in that situation to justify exactly how they've got those figures. And chances are, if they've got the same research you have, they won't be able to do it. So make it more of a consultative approach rather than just saying, here I am, here's what your property is worth, you're welcome. So just sit down with them and say, right, here's the comparables, let's just work through it together. Cool. Any questions on anything we've covered so far? What we've got in the chat, I want to skim that very quickly. Cool, excellent, that's all nice and easy. Right, any questions at all? Tumbleweed is good. Right, everyone take us from today's, oh, something's gone off mute.
I'll have a go, Chris.
Go on, Peter.
So the comps that we're taking into properties at the moment are pretty much useless because, give you an example, let's just say we're going in looking at comps from 3 to 6 months ago. The property's worth 425. I've had instances where I've taken stock off other agents, and I've taken it from 425 down to 400. Still got tumbleweed. So obviously the next move is down to 375, which is not palatable.
Sure.
I've got two options at the moment. We're just starting out. We're all about building signs as well, but obviously maintaining the client is taking time. So uh, where we're struggling is, do we use the comps like every other agent that's overpricing to get the stock in the hope that the buyers come back? Or do we be the realistic agent and tell them it's probably at 375 and then not get calls?
Yeah. So I would look at this and go, what's your goal of your business? Your goal of your business is to list properties and sell properties. Your goal of your business isn't to list properties on the market and just be like, we have all these houses for sale. None of them are sold, but we've got all these houses for sale, sort of thing. And this is where sort of being a self-employed, brokerage agent is absolutely perfect. So you guys only get paid when it crosses the finish line. So I would look at it and I'd go, actually, we'll get a lot more credibility by being honest with people. And does that mean that every single person is going to bite our roll and be like, oh my God, I never knew my house was worth so much? Probably not. But you look at it and go, actually, they'll respect you more. And actually, in the long term, they'll come back to you down the line. So what you generally find is that if you're confident about the market and you think, actually, it's worth 375, for example, when other agents are saying 425, if you're so confident saying, actually, I don't think it's going to sell for that money, I'd be like, look, I'm going to be very black and white with you. This is where I see it sitting. This is what the market is doing at the moment. If you try 425, this is probably not going to help you at all, but I'll open offer, come back to us in a few weeks' time. If it hasn't sold by January or whatever date you want to put in the line, come back to us. There's my card, there's my phone. I'll stay in touch with you. I'll keep sending you market updates. I'll keep sending you stuff that, of interest that might be able to help you out. But ultimately, we're here as sort of your second agent.
Yeah. Okay.
Because there's no point you sort of being busy fools, as I would say it. Because otherwise, all you're going to do is end up spending all your time listing properties, and it sounds really good, and be like, oh my God, we've got £100,000 worth of fees up for sale at the moment, and then never get paid. I'd rather you had one house for sale and you actually sold that one. You get more money off the back of it than having 100 houses you never sell.
Just one more question. Thank you for that, first of all. You mentioned that after, so what we're doing, and well, we're exactly the same as what you said. We've got 50% of our buyers which need to sell. We're working them, and obviously the other 50% that want to sell, and they're waiting for the budget. Do you really think the buyers are going to come back in the first week after the budget, or are they going to get to the 6th of December and go, do you know what? I'm going to wait till January, and do you hold them off for a Boxing Day sale?
Oh yeah, don't mention Boxing Day already. Yeah, I was probably being slightly flippant when I said back the next week. It isn't literally like a light switch in the grand scheme of things. It is usually sort of a build up over time, should we say. You're looking to predict the unknown here, if I'm brutal. So I don't think there's a definitive answer here. It depends which way the budget goes. It depends, obviously, if it's good news, bad news, depending on how you look at it. I do not think that you're absolutely right. I think if it comes out and it kind of does what it's going to do, most people will go, okay, great. Well, we'll think about it over Christmas, then we'll go from the 1st of January onwards. So it may well be a time to look at it. You have to look at it from your vendor's best interest, I'd always say. So if you look at it and they go, actually, guys, I'm desperate to sell, I'll be like, okay, well, screw the budget. Let's get you on today. Like, we just need to get it done, get it online, and we are where we are. If you're getting divorced or you need to upsize or downsize and you just need to get rid of it, fine, we'll roll the dice and go for it. If you're saying, actually, we're quite chilled about it, we've not found our next property yet at all, okay, then maybe trying it next year might be the best way. But what I would do in that situation is the more you can get from that person, the better chance you've got of selling it. So what I mean by that is, instead of saying, oh, we'll call you in January to get it on the market, for example, I'll be like, great, well, we'll come around and see you. We'll get the contracts filled out. We'll forward date that for January next year. We'll do the floor plan. We won't do the pictures today because, we'll do that in a few weeks' time. I'll do the description today. So you basically got 90% of the work done straight away. Even if you didn't get the contract filled out, I would feel morally obliged to go with you guys, because I'm like, well, they came out, they did the pictures, I tidied the house up, I cleaned the toilet, all these things. Therefore, I want to go with you. So the more you can get done, the better chance you've got of getting it.
Cool. Thank you.
No, more than welcome. Good. Right. We've got 5 minutes left. Is there any more questions before we wrap it up for today? Oh, look at Danny. Danny's in San Francisco. There we go. Right.
So, Britt, I've got a quick question for you. Danny, I'm talking to a lot of landlords who are uneasy. It's sort of related to this, but just mainly on pricing. Obviously, leasehold properties. I'm based in North London, so it's kind of covered with leasehold properties. To transact takes, 5-6 months on average. So what advice have you got? Because landlords obviously don't want to leave it empty for 6 months, obviously losing out 1, 2, 3K a month on that. So what advice have you got in terms of speaking to landlords and obviously ultimately selling, but having it rented in the meantime as well?
Yeah, I think that it's similar to the conversation earlier. It's kind of a who has to sell and who wants to sell. If it's a case of like, HMRC are coming around tomorrow and they're going to kick my door down and whatever else, I'll be like, let's get on the market and let's get it sold, shall we? If it's a case of them going, look, slowly over the next couple of years, Danny, I'm going to start selling off my investments. I would look at it and go, okay, well, maybe let's wait for the budget to get out of the way. Let's get a tenant in there for the next 6 months or so, then look at it from beginning part of next year. I think that, the market is, if you're looking to sell your investments and really cash in at the moment, it's probably not the time. But then it depends on their motivation, because there's motivation on one side and there's money on the other. If they're really motivated to get things done, always money doesn't make a difference. If they've got no motivation, then money makes all the difference, because that's the only kind of benefit they've got coming to the table. So it's the individual is going to weigh that things up. If you're looking at having a conversation and saying, actually, you might be better off having a short-term let for a couple of months to get a couple of grand in every single month and then look at it, fine. If they go, actually, Danny, I'm desperate, mate, let's get it sold today, other route to go down.
Yeah.
I think, the job of an agent isn't to decide what is the right step to do. The job of an agent is to go, here's the options. Here is option A, which is doing this. This might work out well, might not work out well. This is option B. This is option C. There's pros to this. There's cons to that. There's maybes to that sort of thing. What do you want to go for? That is literally your job in a nutshell. My personal thought would be option B would be the best one. If I was in your shoes, that's where I'd be looking for it to be. But ultimately, it's not your job to decide. It is your job to offer and to say, these are the options we've got in front of you. It might be auction. It might be re-rent it. It might be sell it, whatever. These are what we've got in front of you. These are the pros and cons. Which one sounds best to you? That's a nutshell. So it's not down to you guys to decide. It's say, look, as I see it, these are our 3 options, 5 options, 2 options, 1 option. What do you want to do?
Okay. Yeah.
Good.
Thanks.
Excellent. Right, I've got one more slide to go. I did promise one more slide. So let me do that. Let's do that. Hopefully, I've counted my slides correctly. Haha, I have my slide text correctly. There we go. Fantastic. So you might see some faces you recognise. Danny, you're in this one. Right at the front. Looking good, Danny. So we hold a end of year conference every single year. And obviously, I hate to say it, but we are now towards the end of October. I have done 0 marketing on this so far. I've texted a few people saying the end of year conference is coming up soon, and we started booking tickets already. So you guys are very much ahead of the curve on this one. If you do want to grab a ticket for it, we limit numbers to 50 people. So once they're gone, they are most definitely gone. If you are thinking about attending, it's on the 10th of December. It's held in the Village Inn Hotel in Coventry. We have a nice big room there, nice lunch, and we have basically, my goal is to throw as much value into the day as I possibly can do. So this year we've got some really good speakers. Apart from myself and Rachel will obviously be there. We've got Toby Martin is doing a talk all about AI in your estate agency business. We've got Simon Ledbetter there as well. We've got Elaine Penhall about how to get more high-end people within your business and more high-end sellers within your business. And I've tried to make it as affordable as I possibly can do. Full disclosure, I actually make a loss on these every time we run them. So there we go. So if you scan the QR code, that will take you through to the Eventbrite booking. As a Brucey bonus, you have a discount code because you've joined the webinar today, which I really appreciate. And I've not actually sent this out to anybody yet at all. So this is going to be slightly more expensive next week. If you enter the code VIP20 at checkout, it will take the price down by 20 quid. I think they are normally £89. So they're £69, which as conferences go is like, I went to a property market a while ago and it was like 400 quid for a day or something ridiculous. So I try and bang as much value as I possibly can do into that day for everybody that attends. So scan the QR code, grab your ticket while they're still remaining. I'm sending out a bulk email on it on Wednesday next week, of which I'm sure most of them will get snapped up off the back of that. So you've got until then to nab your ticket. There we go. Right, and without any further ado, we are at 1:59. Guys, thank you so much for your time today. Great questions, really appreciate it. And we'll have another one of these in the future. Hopefully I'll see lots of you at the end of year conference as well. And have a great day and have a great Halloween, which is not too far away.
Thank you. Bye.
More than welcome, guys. Have a good one. See you soon. See you later. Cheers, guys. Bye-bye.